Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to flourish? They grow, they produce amazing things in their lives, while other people with the exact same opportunities just stagnate. Well, today we're diving deep into an ancient story, a parable really, that gives us this incredible, timeless framework for personal growth. Let's see what it has to teach us. So, what really makes a life fruitful? We often think it's about having the best education or the right career or just plain old hard work. But this parable, it suggests a totally surprising answer. It says the single most important factor for your future isn't how hard you work, but how receptive you are to wisdom. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll get into the core analogy of the parable itself. Then we're going to explore the 4 different types of soil, which are really 4 types of mindsets. And finally, we'll get practical and talk about how to actually cultivate the right conditions for growth in our own lives. Okay, first up, the parable itself. The source material kind of calls this Parable 101, and for good reason. It's like the master key that unlocks a much, much deeper message about how real transformation actually happens. Now, what's so cool about this is how simple the analogy is. You've got a sower who is generously scattering a seed. That seed is the message. It's an idea, a piece of wisdom, a truth. And the soil? Well, the soil is us. It's our heart, our mind, our whole attitude. The sower and the seed, they're constants. The one thing that changes, the soil. Right, and this is super important. The seed isn't just some passive piece of information. It has this inherent life-changing potential packed inside it. The source actually points out that when this message was powerfully preached in Philadelphia, the entire city's culture started to shift, away from just partying and towards something totally different. And get this, the potential return on this seed is just staggering. The parable talks about a yield that's 30, 60, or even 100 times what was sown. We're talking about a return on investment of 3,000 to 10,000%. It just shows you the immense power locked inside this message, just waiting for the right place to land. So if the seed is that powerful, why doesn't it always grow? Well, let's look at our first type of soil, the path. This represents a heart that is completely, totally unreceptive. The image here is a path that's been walked on so many times, it's basically as hard as concrete. The seed can't get in. It just sits on the surface, totally exposed, until whoosh, it's snatched away. It never, ever gets a chance to even start sprouting. So the one defining characteristic here is simply hardness. It's this imperviousness to anything new, a mind that's already slammed the door shut before the message even rings the doorbell. You see this happen when pride, or that I already know it all attitude, makes our minds calloused. We hear a new idea and boom, we immediately ignore it or argue against it. The message never breaks the surface, and before you know it, it's gone. Okay, let's move on to the second type of soil. This is the rocky ground, and it represents a shallow heart. So it isn't hard, but it has absolutely no depth. This is the classic flash in the pan. You see this immediate, super enthusiastic growth because the soil is thin. But that exact same lack of depth means there's no foundation. There's no root system to keep it alive when things inevitably get tough. So the core issue here is shallowness. It's that surface-level excitement that feels great at first, but it hasn't been tested. There's no deep conviction to back it up when the heat gets turned on. These are the people who hear a message and are filled with joy. They absolutely love the idea of transformation. But the second that trouble or hardship or the need for real sacrifice shows up, what the parable calls the sun, they just wither away. Real growth needs roots that can handle the heat. All right, on to the third type of soil, and this one might be the most relatable for a lot of us. It's the thorny soil. This represents a heart that's just crowded and distracted. Now, here's the thing. The seed does sprout. It begins to grow. The potential is definitely there. But it's not alone. It's competing with weeds, these powerful, fast-growing thorns that, in the end, just completely overwhelm it. And this perfectly captures the problem. The message gets choked out. Its life force, its energy, it's all stolen by all these competing priorities that are fighting for the same space. The parable points to 3 major thorns. First, the worries of this life. Our jobs, our family, our finances, all the daily anxieties. Second, the deceitfulness of wealth, that false sense of security it promises that leads us on an endless chase. And third, it's simply the desire for other things. A divided focus means nothing can truly grow. Okay, let's just pause and sum this up before we get to the good stuff. The first three soils fail because of hardness, shallowness, and distraction. So it makes sense then that the good soil, the fruitful heart, has to be defined by the total opposite: openness, depth, and focus. And that finally brings us to the ideal, the goal, the good soil. This is the blueprint for what it takes to achieve real, lasting, and truly fruitful growth in our lives. This right here, this is the outcome we're all hoping for. The seed doesn't just hang on and survive, it thrives. It grows strong, and it produces this incredible harvest, multiplying its potential way, way beyond that original little seed. So what makes this soil so good? Well, it's not just about hearing the message. It's about truly accepting it. And this is the key, putting it into practice. That active application, that's what turns simple information into real transformation. It's the difference between knowing the right path and actually walking it. And here's the best part. Our soil type isn't fixed. It's not permanent. We can actually cultivate it. To fight against hardness, we can practice humility. We can stay open. To fight shallowness, we can lean into hardship and let it build those deep roots. And to fight against a crowded heart, we have to actively prune the distractions, cut back the thorns that are choking out what truly matters. You see, this parable isn't just some ancient story. It's a diagnostic tool for our own lives, right here, right now. It's asking us to look inward, to be honest, and assess the condition of our own hearts. So the final question really is for you. What is growing in your soil?